up, everybody? Welcome to a mobile Tuesday. My name is Paul Abernathy. Thanks for joining me. This is a Let's Ask Paul episode, and I got a quick one. Usually I was going through the database and trying to catch up on them, and I usually try to catch up on weekends. But I saw this one, and I figured I would go ahead and respond to it. It was a question that came in regarding non-metallic sheath cable. So the question was, so they're doing an EV charger and they want to run non-metallic sheath cable to it, and I guess the boss wants to use 6 gauge and NM cable, and the electrician wants to use larger, and a bit of a confusion on how you should do that. Okay. All right. So first things first. I guess as electricians, we're conditioned to do things like putting conductors in raceways, and if it doesn't correspond, we go to the next size, 240.4B. But we have different conditions of use that might be in play, like ambient temperatures or number of current carrying conductors. None of that was presented in the question, kind of. So the question really was, it's like, okay, so who's right? How do I size this? That type of thing. And so the way you size this typically is that it is considered a continuous load because of 625. So 625 is Article 625, gives us and tells us to treat this as a continuous load, right? And to be honest with you, the output of that charger is usually going to be the output of it, whatever the output is of it, for however long it takes to charge that vehicle, and that could be more than 3 hours, right? So it's most certainly, going to be something that we take as a continuous load, right? So at any rate, it's taken as a continuous load, and so it's 125%. So now he says that the nameplate rating was 48 amps. All right, well, 48 amps at 125%. Now, where do we get that direction? All right, that direction comes from 210.19A1A, because there was no conditions of use given. We don't have to look at B. We're just looking at A. And A says you take continuous loads at 125% and non-continuous loads at 100%, right? And then, of course, 210.20 talks about the overcurrent device, which has got to be at 125% for a continuous load. So that's already done. So it's 48 amps is the nameplate, 60 amps is the 125%, so that's an overcurrent device. And, of course, the overcurrent device, we have to protect the conductors at their ampacity. So since he's using non-metallic sheath cable, if you go look at the ampacity of a non-metallic sheath cable under the 60-degree column, then you're going to have to go to a 4 gauge in order to be able to handle the 60 amps and terminate it onto a 60 amp overcurrent protected device. Okay. If you want to use a smaller gauge, you want to use a 6, then you're going to have to size the breaker less, right? But again, at the end of the day, the rules in 210.20 tell us what to take it at, okay? At 125%. So anyway, long story short, you definitely have to follow the rules in 334.80 for non-metallic sheath cable. It's going to limit you to the 60 degrees. Now, you could use the 90 for adjustment and corrective purposes. That was never expressed in the question. There was no adjustment or correction involved. There was no ambient temperature issue involved. So at the end of the day, it's just the 48 times 125% at 60 amps. You protect put an overcurrent device at 60 amps, and you make sure you have a conductor that has at least handled the load. Okay, and in this case, the load is being forced for you to size it in 210.19A1A. We're being forced to size it at 125%. Okay, now. The interesting thing is, if it had been an adjustment or correction involved, you would have done a conductor comparison, right? You would have done a comparison, and then you would have looked at 210.19A1B. and you would have compared conductor sizes to A1A for the branch circuit, right? But there wasn't any, none was given, so all we're really using is A, and we're doing a continuous load, and we're just sizing based on that. And that's the branch circuit, and it can't be sized less than that. What's interesting, though, is that if you choose not to use non-metallic sheath cable, use MC cable. Well, MC cable, for example, is not under the same rules like non-metallic sheath cable. In 110.14c, when we have the terminal limitation rules, right, and you don't have the reference to the 60 and things like that in MC cable in Article 330. So, same way with the raceway, conductors in a raceway. That's when you can use things like, okay, as long as the conductor has an ampacity, and if it doesn't correspond, I can go to the next available size overcurrent device. As long as my conductor can handle, the load that's being calculated out and everything that's associated, then you're okay. You have those different allowances. And then, of course, 110.14c says, okay, well, if it's 100 amps or less, you're 60. You're over 100, you use 75. But inside of 110.14c1a, it has some allowances if the breaker's rated 75, if the conductors are rated 75, which non-metallic sheath cable is not, it's rated 60, right? But it's saying, okay, I can do that, and then I could continue to use the 75 degree amps. Now, that works fine for MC. That works fine for conductors in a raceway, as long as the conductors are at least 75 degrees C. And as long as the load terminations are at least 75 degrees C. So you don't have that same concept with non-metallic sheath cable. A lot of people want to use 110.14c1a, and they want to go, oh, well, it's NM. The conductors inside of it are rated 90 degrees C, and that is true. The insulation is. But just like it tells you in 334.80, it tells you that you have to, it can't be more than the 60 degree. Okay? So it giving you that direction involved in it, and it says, okay, yeah, I'll let you use the 90 to adjust and correct, as long as ultimately you're not exceeding that of the 60 degree. So really all you're doing when you're using the 90 for adjustment and corrective is to make sure that after those adjustments or after those corrections, I still have a conductor that can handle the ampacity necessary based on my calculation. Okay? That's all you're really doing. So I always tell people, first thing you always want to do is pick the conductor size you need from the column that corresponds to whatever it's rating. So if I was sizing non-metallic sheath cable for something, I would go to the 60 degree column, pick the ampacity it's going to handle the load, go with that, right? And then if there's an adjustment or corrective that needs to take place using that conductor that we originally selected, then I go to the 90 degree, take that ampacity, do an adjustment and correction, and see if my conductor still has, one, the ability to handle the load, okay, handle what we're calculating, everything, and make sure it's not exceeding that of the 60 or the new value that we calculate. Right? That's all we're really doing. And if by chance, even using the 90, if by chance, after we make an adjustment or correction, if by chance the new ampacity of that conductor drops below the value in the 60 degree column, then we have a problem, right? Because if it drops below the value in the 60 degree column, and now it doesn't have enough ampacity to handle whatever our calculation was, then we're going to have to do what? We're going to have to go to a larger conductor. We have to bump up to the next size. And then we do the little exercise all over again to make sure that we're okay. Now, in the submitter's question, there wasn't any ambient. There wasn't any number of current carrying conductors exceeding 3. None of that was present. So it's a straightforward question. It's 48 amp nameplate to be taken as a continuous load. Do it at 125%. Size your overcurrent device. And he did. It's 60. Now, sizing conductor. Again, you take the conductor at whatever your load is, and you say, for this case, I know the load is 48 amps. Just like it says in 210.19A1A, you do it at 125% because it is a continuous load, and you size the conductor. right? And once you size it, that's it. Now you size the overcurrent device. You size the overcurrent device based on what? 125%, okay? So, of the load, which was 48 amps. So, I mean, at the end of the day, pretty straightforward. I would say the electrician is correct. I would say his boss is incorrect. Solutions, get you some MC cable and do it in MC. Then you can continue with what you want to do is 6 gauge, I guess, copper, and you'll be fine. Run a raceway. Do something like that. FMC, do something like that. You have other choices if you don't want to, but I mean, if you're going for simplicity and you're going for ease, that's what non-metallic sheath cable is all about. So jump up to a 4 gauge NM cable and be done with it. Move on to the next project. Okay, that's what I do with it. Now, again, he's the boss. So if he tells you to do something and you do it, just remember he's the one that directed you. Okay. Anything happens, the inspection fails, or inspector catches it, or something like that, and it fails, then it's on him. As long as he doesn't get amnesia, right, and forgets that he gave you those directions to do something. But hopefully that answers your question. And I apologize, I went all over the place in giving examples in this one, because again, it was a mobile podcast, and I want to make sure I cover a lot of stuff. So that's what I wanted to cover. Hopefully that answers your question. As always, folks, if you have any questions you want to submit to the Let's Ask Paul, then please feel free to do that. All you got to do is go to paulabernathy.com, and there you can submit. If you'd like to follow up to this episode, I don't know the number of the episode. It's just call it a mobile, because I don't think this one has a number. Just say, hey, I'm following up to your mobile. Can you explain a little more? Or can you clarify if there's something that I said that you didn't understand? But again, the key factors that you're going to take away, okay, is 210.19A1A. It's a continuous load based on Article 625. I can't remember. It might be 625.47. I can't remember. I'm in the car, by the way. I don't know every article in my brain or every section. So we have that. So you're going to take it, the nameplate, since it is a continuous load, you're taking it 125%. We sized the breaker, and of course at this point, that was in 210.20, and then 210.19 tells us the branch circuit sizing has to be 125% of the continuous load and 100% of the non-continuous. We did that, and we sized everything accordingly. And so then we went and chose the non-metallic sheath cable. First thing you want to do is, since it is limited to 60, you go to the 60-degree column. In a 60-degree column of 310/16, pick the ampacity that you need under the product's rating, which is 60. You pick the one you need. In this case, since we're dealing with 60 amps, we have to deal with a 4-gauge copper, right? Because I believe that's good for 70, I believe. So we've got that. I think the other 6 is only good for 55, memory serves me. All right, so 55 is not going to work. Now, that's it. There's no adjustment or corrections to take place. So that's exactly how you're sizing it, and that's exactly what you use, and you need a 4-gauge. Now, again, 334.80 does allow us to do 90 for adjustment and corrective purposes, but there was none really given in this exercise. There was none given in the question. So there was nothing stated about how it's installed. So straightforward, that's the simple question. That's the simple answer. Okay? All right. Plus, I needed to drag it out for a mobile, so to get it at least, 10 minutes or so. So bear with me. All right, folks. Hopefully, I didn't spout that off too quick, and that you understand what we're doing. And those are the code references you can go check. Till next time, folks, stay safe. God bless, and make it a great Tuesday.